Radlick, thank you so much for watching. We're going to do start with Vote Tesla. You can see right here, if you see Elon, I'm going to try to give you a roadmap to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about voting for Tesla. There's a couple other little bits in here, including Farzad reference and a little bit of FSD. Then when you see Optimus on the screen, we're going to be talking about FSD. We're going to be talking about Roadster. We're going to be talking about Tesla chips. We're going to talk about Robotaxi update, Elon's whether Elon's going to do a phone, a little bit of Elon politics. Then we see Farzad. I've got Farzad in the wrong place. Hope you guys can all hear me. We're going to talk about SpaceX. More than SpaceX, but we're going to talk a lot about SpaceX and Starlink and SpaceX doing AI data centers in space, in orbit, and then a little bit more Elon talking about artificial general intelligence, talking about universal high income. So this is the roadmap for what you're going to see in this video. So we'll start with the vote. But before we get to the vote, I've got to do one little bit.
The Cybercab is gorgeous. I told you I'd buy 2 of those if you put a steering wheel in them. And there is a big movement online.
We're not putting a steering wheel in.
We're not putting a steering wheel in them.
People are begging for it. Why not? Why not let us buy a couple? Just the first ones off the line and drive them. I mean, they look great.
So if you haven't been following this, Farzad Mesbahi has been pushing. They need to put a steering wheel on Cybercab. They're going to put a steering wheel on Cybercab, and Elon has definitively said, no, we're not putting a steering wheel on Cybercab.
It's like the perfect model. You always had a vision for a Model 2, right? Like, isn't it like the perfect Model 2 in a...
And Elon never talked about a Model 2 to the public, and Tesla specifically denied the name Model 2 way back.
To being a Cybercab?
Look, the reality is people may think they want to drive their car, but the reality is that they don't. How many times have you been, say, in an Uber or Lyft, and you said, you know what, I wish I could take over from the driver, and I wish I could get off my phone and take over from the Uber driver and drive to my destination. How many times have you thought that to yourself?
So, Elon essentially dismisses this theory. Farzad has bend pumping this. I've started calling him Lord Farquaad. This is based on Lord Farquaad from Shrek. And Farzad has responded to this by saying, my revenge will be unlike anything that has ever witnessed. And then Farzad really flipped out and said, in all caps, Tesla will obviously build a Cybercab-like car with steering wheel. And I've been teasing him. Omar's been teasing him. There's a lot of teasing going back and forth. This is just fun within the Tesla community. Farzad's a good guy. I don't know why he got caught up in the steering wheel thing. Hello, Shamsky. And hello to Mark Plott. Hello to Mark. Oh my God, my brain is fried. Hello to our moderators. Hello to Jim. Hello to B. What is going on with my brain today? Okay, so let's talk about the vote. Tesla shareholders have a vote. Already living in the carless world. Tesla shareholders have a vote coming up, and I've got a bunch of people talking about this. So I've already voted all of my shares for Elon's compensation package for the Tesla board members. There's a few other items. I would encourage you to look at Tesla Boomer Mama's, I think it's still her pinned post, how she recommends you vote. If you haven't voted already, if you think you voted for all your shares, you may have multiple accounts. Please go and check your brokerage account and make sure that you voted all your stock. Because sometimes like I actually experienced this. I had voted, I thought all my accounts. It turns out I'd only voted 2 of my accounts, and there were 2 or 3 accounts left. So when I went into my account, I found that, and I voted the rest of my shares. So, by the way, you guys can hear me. You guys can hear the videos when I play the videos. I'm not seeing a lot in the chat about that. So here's Jason DeBolt. Jason is a friend of mine. He is a long-time Tesla investor, I think back around 2012 or something like that. He famously slept in his car so he could save money on rent to buy more Tesla stock. And it turned out very well for him. And he has, who knows, $20-30 million worth of Tesla stock at this point. Okay, great. Thank you. So he points out, Tesla must never be stolen from Elon Musk like Apple was stolen from Steve Jobs. If you remember the history of Apple, that happened. If there's only one job of a Tesla shareholder, it's to vote with the board every year. Tesla's a phenomenal company. Let's keep it that way. One bad board member can sabotage the entire company. Tesla shareholders must constantly stay vigilant here on X and vote consistently to keep the control of the company in the right hands, or we will lose everything. He's quote posting Amy, who's also pushing for people to do this. And I want to be clear, like there's this, what do you call them? Elon calls them ISIS, corporate ISIS, institutional shareholder services and Glass Lewis or something like that, that make recommendations to passive investor fund, passive money market funds, exchange traded funds, which are a large share of the stocks on the stock market. And they recommended, for example, against voting against Elon's comp package. They recommended against voting for Ira Ehrenpreis because they want more diversity on the board. And then they recommended voting against Kathleen Wilson Thompson, the black woman on the board. So you want diversity on the board, but you're voting against the diverse person on the board. So it's, it's really important that you don't let that retail shareholders consistently support Elon, consistently support the board. Ira Ehrenpreis has been with Tesla on the board for a very long time. And basically the stock has gone up something like 50x since he started on the board. You want to get rid of a guy who's helped the company get 50x? And I think we're going, if you guys follow me, I think we're going another 50x. I want people who are on the Elon train. I don't want people who are going to start getting in Elon's way. People who support the mission, support Elon, and do other things to help Tesla succeed. Squawk Square is what I would call a Tesla Q account. Very critical. So there's this story going, which I think I have another slide about this later, about NVIDIA partnering with Uber to scale its network. NVIDIA partners with everybody. That doesn't mean anything. It says even Jensen and NVIDIA are distancing themselves from Tesla. Jensen Huang loves Elon, always says nice things about him. Just was on stage with Elon recently. Thinks Elon is great, says great things about Elon. Elon ruined the plan and relationships that were needed to excel his plans. I don't know what excel his plans means. This is why his comp plan isn't deserved, and Elon and Robin have been begging for the vote. Tesla's a dead company in 3 years. Well, so if you are concerned that the company's going to be dead in 3 years, well, then the comp package is worthless. Elon will get nothing if the company is worth nothing, is dead company in 3 years. So what's the harm in voting for the comp package? And nobody has like who would you replace? Because if you vote against the comp package, Elon might leave. Elon might decide not to. I think he's pretty clear. I didn't clip this, but he was on, I think, the All In pod. And I think he said he won't build an army of robots. I think he would stop building Optimus within Tesla if he doesn't get more control of the company. So I call him Tesla Q. I don't care if you call him Elon Q, whatever. If you're Elon Q, you are Tesla Q. So, but if it's a dead company in 3 years, then the package is worthless. So why not vote for it? It's silly to say NVIDIA is distancing from Tesla. Harushi, this is a longtime Tesla employee. I started at Tesla 10 years ago. There's a number of Tesla employees, present and former, who are talking about how important Ashok. I didn't put Ashok's in the slide, but a number of Tesla employees are saying it's really critical that Elon be here. They know that Elon is a driver of innovation. Elon is a driver of success. And if you understand what happens at Elon's companies, you understand that he will sit down. He'll spend 18 hours with your company talking to a whole bunch of employees, dozens of employees, going through what are you working on? How can I help you make this work better? Solving problems. And then he'll move on to the next company the next day. Right? What's the biggest problem at this company today? Let me solve this. Mark Anderson talked about that. If there's a big problem, he will sit down with whoever's working on that and they will fix it. So, Elon's attention to detail, relentless drive, someone who's gone through all kinds of challenges, from driving one of the safest cars on the road every day to revisiting first principles on manufacturing multiple times each week. I am more excited than ever about Tesla's role in accelerating the world's transition to sustainable abundance. A lot of the critics don't support the mission. Like the mission was transition to sustainable energy. Now the mission is transition to sustainable abundance. The team is behind the mission. Anybody who's thinking should be behind that mission. But you've got critics who are like, oh, just make a car with a steering wheel. Make smaller cars. Like not understanding that the company is not valued based on making a few extra car models. The company is valued on radically changing the world economy. David Drucker says, for the pay package, what do you think the first item Elon will meet to go with the 2 trillion mark? I don't know. I haven't looked at it. Honestly, I haven't looked at those specifics that closely. I look at the, up to $8.5 trillion market cap. The other stuff to me is important, but not that important. I think the pay package is extremely likely to get passed. Shamsky asks in the chat. I think Polymarket now has it at 97%. In the previous shareholder vote, I sold about 20% of my Tesla stock to protect myself in case the vote went down, knowing that Elon is going to vote 15%, his 15% shares in favor of the package means it seems extremely unlikely to fail. And then Elon's, casual appearing on a couple of podcasts today suggests they already know it's passed. So I'm just not worried about that. I kind of figured, okay. And I think Vanguard has said they're voting for it. That's a big one. So I think we're all right there. Omid is a former employee. I think he got fired. And Omid is saying no better leader than Elon Musk to me. He's with the company for a long time. He probably owns a lot of Tesla stock because he's with Tesla from very early on. He was also with SpaceX at one point. No better leader than Elon Musk to make Tesla's ambitious goals a reality, drive us into an age of abundance, has always led from the front lines, putting all his chips on the table to support the mission. Let me just look at the chat. Okay. So, and then there's a couple more, or one more. Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computers, somebody who works with Tesla, I think works with xAI, maybe he works with Tesla as well on data centers. This award is only achieved if he hits exceptionally ambitious market cap and operational milestones. If he falls short, he gets nothing. If he succeeds, shareholders will win big through unprecedented value creation, and he will earn added voting rights to continue driving Tesla's long-term vision. I don't know how much more you need. There's a lot of people who understand, like Michael Dell knows business, and Michael Dell says vote for the package. People who know Elon, people who work for Tesla are saying vote for the package. If you understand, the critics, the Ross Gerbers of the world, they don't make any sense. And, Ross doesn't own any stock. So I think we have a video. No, okay. Just a little, I'm sorry. I'm traveling, whatever. So there's a clip that I posted, if you go on my X account. I think this was in Australia. The family's driving down the road with FSD, because FSD is now legit in Australia. Car was hit by a meteorite. Okay, a meteor entered. There was apparently a meteor shower, and their car was hit, and they were incapacitated. The people inside the car were so stunned by the meteor hitting. It hit the windshield. It didn't go through the windshield, so the windshield protected them from the damage from the meteorite. And FSD kept driving. The humans inside were stunned and were unable to continue controlling the car. They weren't trying to control the car because FSD was driving, but FSD just kept going and kept them safe. So the windshield, very sturdy windshield, kept them safe, and FSD kept them safe. And, if Tesla wasn't hated by the media, this would be a massive story. This is stunning. This is fantastic technology. Steering wheel and pedals or no? I don't know what you're referring to, but there's no steering wheel and no pedals on Cybercab. Okay, so we're going to move on to, I think we got a video clip here.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the Roadster
Yes.
eventually?
We're getting close to demonstrating the prototype.
Like how
And I
close?
think this will be... one thing I can guarantee is that this product demo will be unforgettable. Unforgettable.
How so?
Whether it's good or bad. It will.
So there's all kinds of speculation what this product demo is going to be. One of the best speculations I saw was that they're going to drop the Roadster out of like a plane or a helicopter, and it's going to stop itself from hitting the ground with its thrusters, like it's capable of flying. And that would be unforgettable if it fell out of the sky and crashed, and it would be unforgettable if it fell out of the sky and landed. So that's one example of what might be happening. Robert Scoble is speculating of all sorts of things. You know, the impression that we had before was that it was going to be the Roadster we saw, which you'll hear it's may not be what we saw before. It looks like a car with a large and powerful compressed gas tank and ports so that you could have cold gas thrusters, up to 10 ports that you could use for a variety of things. Distant Sight says the Roadster uses a vacuum to hug the road during corners. Well, you could invert the thrusters to pull in to fill the tank, and that could give you vacuum control as well. Yeah. There's a lot of different things here. So 14.4 says, as for Cybercab, Tesla already has at least one driving on the roads with steering wheel and pedals. Tesla uses a steering wheel and pedals on test vehicles. They use LiDAR on some test vehicles. That doesn't mean it's going to be in the car that's sold to the customers. They've used LiDAR on Model Ys and Model 3s and other cars, but they haven't sold those to customers. So the fact that you've seen a test vehicle that, they want to make sure it steers right. They want to make sure it brakes right. So they put some drive-by-wire steering wheel and pedals on it so they can test it. It doesn't mean it's going to have them for sale. No steering wheel, no pedals. No capes. From Mr. Incredible, if you know that. The Incredibles, if you know that movie.
Be unforgettable.
Can you say more? What do you mean?
Well, my friend Peter Thiel, once reflected that the future was supposed to have flying cars, but we don't have flying cars.
So you're going to be able to fly?
Well, I think if Peter wants a flying car, he should be able to buy one.
So Elon is not going to tell us exactly what's going on here, but and by the way, some of the clips in this video that I'm going to show you, I was able to edit beforehand. For some reason, some of the clips, my editing software wouldn't work, so I'm putting them. So there's pauses in this clip. Some of the other clips won't have pauses, but some of the clips will have pauses, and it makes it take a little longer. Sorry about that.
So are you actively considering making an electric flying car? Is this like a real thing?
Well, you have to see in the
demo.
Yeah.
So when you do this, like, are you going to have a retractable wing? Like, what is the idea behind this? Don't be sly. Come on.
Well, I can't do the unveil before the unveil.
So Elon is being very coy. He really doesn't give anything away, as far as I can tell. I'm watching this. I haven't seen him give anything away. Yeah, Mark Plot, I agree. It will fly briefly. I think it won't be the main purpose flying. I think that there's this value in having these cold gas thrusters. This is a theory. It may be that they've got something else going. I think Robert Scoble thinks that the cold gas thrusters or jets will be more powerful than we originally thought. That's one of his speculations. We'll see.
But
tell me off air then.
Look, I think it has a shot at being the most memorable product unveil ever. It has a shot.
And when do you plan on doing this? What's the goal?
Hopefully before the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Before the end of this year? This is, we're
like
almost
in a
November
couple months.
1st.
Hopefully in a couple months.
So, for those who aren't familiar with Roadster, Tesla unveiled a version of this updated Roadster maybe 6 years ago now, and then people put down like substantial deposits, and they've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's not clear why Tesla hasn't come out with a Roadster already yet. I know Elon has said, look, we're working on more important things, and they don't want to devote engineering resources to a very small thing that's not going to move the needle for the company. But, they're getting closer, and then they're going to unveil a prototype. So when do you go to production if you're going to unveil a prototype? Because you already unveiled the prototype 6 years ago. So if you unveil a prototype again, what does that mean? When do you go? Prototypes are easy, manufacturing is hard. What's the plan for manufacturing this thing?
We need to make sure that it works. This is some crazy, crazy technology we got in this car. Crazy technology. Crazy, crazy.
So different than what was previously announced, and
Yes.
So it's different than what was previously announced. That's one reveal.
is that why you haven't released it yet? Because you keep fucking with it?
It has crazy technology.
Okay.
Like, is it even a car? I'm not sure. Like, it looks like a car.
Okay, so now we know it looks like a car, but it has some technology that makes you wonder whether it really is a car. Is it eVTOL? I don't know.
But let's just put it this way: it's crazier than anything James Bond. If you took all the James Bond cars and combined them, it's crazier than that.
I mean, one of the Bond cars went underwater. Is this going to go underwater? Is it a submarine car?
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think
Is
of
it
that
even a
because
car? I don't know.
it's the limited amount of information I'm drawing from here. Jamie's very suspicious over there. Look at him. Excited.
I'm interested.
It's still going to be the same.
Well, you know what? I mean, if you want to come a little before the unveil, I can show it to you.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
So that's just some entertainment for you. Roadsters, quad motors. I think it's way more than quad motors. Why are they bothering with a Roadster when Elon is claiming no one wants to drive? I think it's a Halo car. I think that's the basic idea. It's a Halo car. Elon said the same thing about Cybertruck, and it was a bit of a yawn. Cybertruck's not a yawn. Cybertruck's amazing. Semi has taken just as long as Roadster. They were unveiled together. No, but Semi has actually vehicles on the road. There's a manufacturing plan in place. There's a factory that's been built for it. Roadster is well behind Semi. They've had semis on the road for, I think, 2 years now. That they're gradually building to where it is, that they haven't been hiding Semi. End of the year is not the same as this year. Thank you, Jim Manley. Yeah, I have clips. I have clips from both Rogan and All In. I think the previous clip was from All In. I have both of those in this. So, but moving on, there was this release. We're going to talk about FSD right now. There was this release from NVIDIA connected to Uber that Uber is going to bring together human riders and robot drivers in a worldwide ride-hailing network powered by NVIDIA hardware. Stellantis, Lucid, and Mercedes-Benz are collaborating on Level 4 ready autonomous. So this, to me, is obviously going to fail compared to Tesla. 14 high-definition cameras, 9 radars, 1 LiDAR, and 12 ultrasonics, NVIDIA hardware. NVIDIA hardware gets a 70% gross margin. Where's the training compute, right? Tesla has the Cortex training compute cluster in Texas. Cortex 2 is coming. They've got training compute in Palo Alto. Where's the training compute going to be to use this data? How will the sensor fusion work? You've got LiDAR, you've got radar, you've got cameras. How are you going to make this fusion work? What if this LiDAR says one thing and the vision says another thing? How do you decide which one's correct? These are challenges. These vehicles are going to be $200,000. So do regular people buy the cars for $200,000 and put them in the Uber network? Does Uber buy them? If Uber buys them, that's 100,000 cars. I think there's supposedly 100,000 cars. 100,000 cars at $200,000 a piece is $20 billion. And Uber has $7 billion in cash on hand. So how is this getting funded? It doesn't really come together and make sense. I think the prospect was it would start putting cars on the road in like 2027, by which time Tesla will have, I don't know, 10,000 cars on the road, and you're going to get started in 2027. And Tesla's cost per mile is going to be so much lower. You got a $200,000 vehicle. Tesla's got a $20,000 vehicle, maybe $30,000 vehicle. What are the odds that Stellantis, Lucid, and Mercedes-Benz are going to have a lower cost per mile than Cybercab? It's going to be awful. I thought the unveiling of Cybertruck was really cool. There was that great moment where they broke the window. That's like a product demo that failed, and yet everybody remembers it. Yeah, Las Vegas Police Department did take a lot of Cybertrucks. That's cool. I've got a video coming with some more Cybertrucks. Somebody else took a big delivery of Cybertrucks. So James Dauma, aka Gemma, did his first serious version 14 drive on 14.1.4. Super happy with it. V12 was the upgrade that made highway road trips completely stress-free, and V14 feels like that upgrade It brings that to everywhere else. Legitimate safety interventions are going to be rare. He talks a lot in detail about it, and he comes to a conclusion. He all these things he put it through: innumerable speed bumps, complex, difficult merges, uncooperative, aggressive, inattentive drivers, multiple confusing parking lots where the map didn't match ground truth, and V14 had to search for an exit. People waved me ahead when they had the right of way, and other people cut me off when I had the right of way. When they had the right of way, clueless crossing guard, all these things, and V14 sailed through all of it. And it did it without any real need for driver attentiveness. I didn't get any nags or see complaints about glare or dirty sensors, despite a not very clean windshield and at least 1 solid hour driving straight into the sun. Manually driving in traffic is torture. At the end of the drive, I felt relaxed and not tired at all. It's not perfect, but it's good, very good, and it's not hard to imagine it closing the gap to perfect fairly soon. 14.2 is coming. I think by 14.4, we're going to have 10x the parameters. So it's going to be much higher performance. There's a lot coming. You look in the chat here for a second. Good morning from Los Angeles. Hello. Yeah, I think it's going to be cold gas thrusters. We don't know. Yes, please like this video, share, and subscribe. Thank you, Mark, for reminding me of that. The cost of a great used Model Y is beyond affordable right now. Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive standard is lowest cost to own. Yeah, I think for a robotaxi use, the standard Model 3 and Model Y are probably what we would produced in volume, because you don't need more than that for a robotaxi. So here's a fun video for you. So I have this muted because it's just road noise, but there's a ridiculous number of Cybertrucks that were delivered to Starbase. I believe SpaceX is replacing all its Ford and other pickups with Cybertrucks. It is kind of shocking how many, like, look at how many Cybertrucks. There's more in the back. There's like a back row, right? They've just taken delivery of all these Cybertrucks. These are all going to be used by SpaceX for its operations. Just absolutely stunning. And I think they may be delivering even more. So that's kind of cool. V14 is better than 13.2.9, but still has odd hesitancy issues. Yeah, we're going to see changes all over the place. Mark Plot says Aptera first drive by Marcus Brownlee was unimpressed. Aptera is a joke. I've done too many videos on that. Okay, so other pieces of news. I thought this was really fascinating because I've been following this story pretty closely. Elon said, we just finished a long AI5 design review. So the current chips in the cars and the current chip used by Optimus is the AI4 chip. AI5 is coming. I believe AI5 will be produced sometime in volume sometime next year. That's going to go into Cybercab. That's going to go into future Tesla cars. It's going to go into Optimus. Elon has said it may be too powerful for the cars. The cars may not need it. AI4 may be enough, but I think AI5 will probably go in the cars. And then he says this was interesting. And AI6 and AI7 will follow in fast succession. AI8 will be out of this world. Chip design review continues tomorrow, followed by Optimus demo review. So, Optimus demo review isn't supposed to be, the Optimus demo isn't supposed to be till next year. So I'm not sure what they mean by that. We know that AI5 is supposed to be about 10x the performance of the AI4 chip. And the AI4 chip is probably going to solve the self-driving problem by the end of this year, early next year, if it hasn't already. AI6, I think AI6, AI7, and AI8. This is an opinion that is not widely shared. I think even the AI6 chip will not go in cars. Elon said at one point that the chip that's going in Optimus will be like $5,000 or $6,000. So the cars get two. So are you going to put $10,000 or $12,000 worth of chips in a car? If the AI5 is good enough to drive the cars very well and reduce the likelihood of crash, 1/10 or less of human drivers, I don't know that you bother putting AI6 in the cars. It's an opinion. I think Optimus is going to need more powerful chip, and it only needs one because there's so much more that Optimus is going to have to be able to do. It has to not only navigate space, but navigate more complex spaces at lower speeds. And it's going to be able to manipulate objects. And it's going to have much more complex environments. So I think there's a lot more learning for Optimus to do. A lot more. It needs a larger, more powerful brain, plain and simple. And then AI7. And, what does he mean by what does he mean by fast succession? Is that an 18-month cycle? Is it a 1-year cycle? Is it a 2-year cycle? And the thing about these chips is probably their most important role is going to be powering AI inference in a cloud. We're going to talk about AI inference in space, AI training. As the demand for AI data center grows, having chips that are more efficient, that use less energy for the amount of compute that they have, that compute faster, that are able to, handle certain things well. I wonder if AI 8 will be out of this world means AI 8 is the one that's going on the AI data centers in space. But I think that the AI data centers in space will launch well before even AI 7, and maybe even before AI 6 is out. So, interesting stuff. Watching them crying about SpaceX buying who's crying about SpaceX buying Cybertrucks? I don't think Cybertruck is selling that well. I think that's one of the harsh things about the price. Sounds like Tesla's becoming a serious competitor to Nvidia. No, not really. Nvidia, the market is so large, and Tesla is not. I don't think Tesla is selling chips to anyone else. It's just a question of, can Tesla supply itself hardware? Because Tesla already supplies its own inference hardware in the cars. But Tesla buys a lot of hardware from NVIDIA for the training compute. I just think they don't need NVIDIA for the inference compute. No, Optimus will start with AI 5, but it will move up to AI 6. And yes, it'll do inference compute in downtime, and the cars will do inference compute in downtime. That's all potential. Leto, August, Legacy Auto EV, your car is bricked. Did I see the talk from ARK Invest discussing a $200 billion training cost needed for Optimus? I don't know the number. I think the training for Optimus will go on for many years. I think there will be a tremendous training cost for Optimus, but the revenue generation from Optimus and the profit from Optimus will dwarf that. It's trillions in profit, maybe $1 trillion a year or more. Tesla $2,900 in year 2030. That's bearish. Tesla is not competing against NVIDIA, right? Would it be possible to do an automated water vessel with an AI 4? Probably. But, the training would be the hard part. How are you going to train it? You'd need to have, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of vehicles, water vessels to train it for that. You can train it in simulation, but I don't know if that would be successful. Because the edge cases are completely different on water than they are on air. Okay. So now we've got another video clip.
Putting the safety monitor in, doing the safety driver. No shame in the safety driver game. It's so much the right decision, obviously, but people are criticizing you for it. I think it's dumb.
Yes, and we do expect it to not have any safety occupant. We do expect that the cars will be driving around without any safety monitor before the end of the year. So
that's the first update. Elon expects that the cars will be driving without a safety monitor by the end of this year. I believe he's referring to Austin and California. I don't think he's referring to other markets where they'll be introducing robotaxis soon. In Florida, maybe Las Vegas, maybe Arizona. We'll see where they introduce them, but we're expecting maybe 8 markets by the end of this year. The new markets will have safety monitors when they start.
Sometime in December.
What did you learn the first 3 or 4 months of the Austin experiment?
A lot of things that we're learning are just how to manage a fleet. Like, because you've got to write all the fleet management software, right? So
yeah.
And you've got to write the ride-hailing software. You've got to write basically the software that Uber has. You've got to write that software. It's just summoning a robot car instead of a car with a driver. So a lot of the things we're doing, we're scaling up the number of cars to say like, what happens if you have 1,000 cars? Like, so we think probably we'll have 1,000 cars or more in the Bay Area by the end of this year. Probably 500 or more in the greater Austin area.
So that's a big prediction as well, that Tesla will have 1,000 cars. 1,000 cars operating, 1,000 robotaxis operating in California, in the Bay Area by the end of this year, and 500 in Austin by the end of this year. That's a big jump from, I think, maybe 30 in Austin and maybe a little bit more than that in California. And these, by the end of the year, they're both going to be having a higher volume and not having a safety monitor in the cars. To me, that's a very positive sign. If they're able to operate without a safety monitor and they're able to scale up volume to that extent, I don't think that's enough to trip the wire for Wall Street yet, but it's a good sign. There's a question that many Tesla investors have is, when is this going to unlock a big jump in the stock price. I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I don't think it's there yet. Sorry, Brooke Chen says, "What's the deal between you and Farzad? I still watch Farzad's videos though." I think it's more jovial teasing than it. I don't think there's a serious anger thing between me and Farzad. Um, I think these guys are watching the earlier part of this video where Elon said no steering wheel and Farzad flipped out. I Farzad has been very successful on YouTube, and I think he worked for Tesla in the past, and I think he can be a great guy. I think he's a great dad. I think there's a lot of good things going on. I do wonder if sometimes I think content creators, the success goes to their heads. I hope it hasn't gone to my head, but I think we've seen it with Ben Sullins. We've seen it with a few others that the success went to their heads and they started thinking they knew more about how to run a company than Elon does. And I don't know if Farzad's there yet, but sometimes I wonder. It's interesting. Anyway, let's keep going with this clip.
You have to make sure the cars don't all, for example, go to the same supercharger at the same time, right?
When you're managing your fleet of robo-taxis, they have to charge. Well, you don't want them to all go to the same supercharger at the same time because there's, let's say, 8 superchargers in the supercharger. If you have 100 robo-taxis show up, that's a problem. You need to decide where this is going to be a huge challenge, is when should your robo-taxis charge and where should they charge? So you would think, well, okay, the robo-taxi should go to a supercharger near it. It should go to a supercharger that is available. Who's going to do the charging? Are you going to have specific supercharger stations that are going to have humans there or Optimists there to plug them in? Because the robo-taxi isn't going to plug itself in. So how does it get plugged in? How does it get unplugged? Is somebody going to clean it while it's charging? It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that level of infrastructure. Thank you, Boomer. Okay, let's keep going.
So, or don't all go to the same intersection. It's like, what do these cars do? And then
so one of the things I've thought about when I think about the future of robotaxi is, all right, you got 1,000 cars in Austin, let's say. You want to know where the rides, let's say it's nighttime. It's 3:00 in the morning. Where are your cars? So let's say some of the cars are charging at night. Some of the cars have already charged. Where do the cars position themselves for the next day? Well, you should have an idea of the pattern of where the demand is, and then you spread your robo-taxis out to those locations. But it takes time to get the data to figure out where your car should go, and I don't think they have that data yet. This is why I have suggested Tesla should buy Lyft, because Lyft would cost $5 billion, and they have a tremendous amount of data across the United States about where demand is likely to be at this time of day and that time of day, and where riders like to be dropped off and picked up, specific locations. And people have poo-pooed me and say, no, that's not necessary. It's not necessary, but it might enable you to move quicker. So Roadster won't fly. It'll just be airborne for a second or so. I think it's going to be longer than that. China has an automated charging wand. Well, the Cybercab will charge on a wireless charger. It'll just back up onto a charging pad. But the Model Ys that they're using right now have to be plugged in. My wife wants, Mark Plott mentions Model 3, Model Y performance. My wife wants a Model 3 performance. Maybe next year we'll get that.
sometimes there's high demand and sometimes there's low demand. What do you do during those times? Do you have the car circle the block? Do you have it try to find a parking space, a disabled parking space or something, but the writing's faded or the thing's faded? The car's like, oh, look, a parking space, we'll jump right in there. And it's like, look,
get a ticket.
you got to look carefully, make sure it's like, it's not an illegal parking space.
Just to be clear, Mark Plott says Tesla already has wireless charging. Tesla has wireless charging ready to go for Cybercab. To my knowledge, there's no plan to wirelessly charge Model Ys. He specifically mentioned going to superchargers, which are not wireless charging. So I do think there's a long-term plan to have wireless charging locations where Cybercabs will charge. I don't think there's a plan to outfit Model Y and Model 3 with wireless charging. I know Cybertruck, at least in theory, could do wireless charging, but to my knowledge, they haven't actually implemented that. Jim says AI5 integrated circuits chips won't be in volume production until at least late 2026 and more likely 2027. Maybe. I think it's going to be by the end of 2026, maybe earlier than that, maybe Q3, but we'll see. You might be right. Well, so talking about Model 3 and Model Y for charging, like that's a short-term issue. It's not a long-term issue. And you put an Optimus in a supercharger, the Optimus will plug them in and unplug them. Probably not hard to train Optimus to plug and unplug cars.
Or it sees a space to park and it's like ridiculously tight, but it's like, oh, I can get in there. It's like 3 inches on either side type of.
Bad computer.
Yeah, technically true, but nobody else will be able to get in the car if you do that. But it will soon become extremely normal.
So this is some of the challenges that Tesla is facing as they get ready to roll out robotaxis. There's a lot of small things that you have to address. This is why I have said in the past Tesla should acquire Lyft. Maybe integrating Lyft to the company would be more work than figuring this stuff out. Maybe I'm right and Lyft would have valuable data that would be worth having. I don't think Optimus will be released earlier than anticipated. I think Optimus is going to be in-house for a long time. Tesla will use it in-house. Maybe SpaceX will use it in-house. Maybe Elon's other companies will use it in-house. Maybe some partner companies like Pepsi, which is testing semi, maybe they will use Optimus, but you're not going to see Optimus delivered to customers like home users 2 or 3 years, except for maybe some celebrity somewhere. Maybe Kim Kardashian gets one. Another video clip here about Elon doing a phone.
The X phone. People keeps talking.
Oh man,
is that nonsense?
I have a lot on
still?
my plate, man.
I know, but it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up where I know I've asked you a couple times. I'm like, this is bullshit, right? But like,
I'm not working on one.
You're not working on it.
I'm not working on a phone.
Okay.
So I think Elon's answer to where this is going is kind of mind-blowing. Where he sees this going, why he's not working on a phone. He didn't mention Neuralink, which I thought, I think it eventually goes to Neuralink. Like, you won't need a phone because you'll be using Neuralink. You won't even be looking in your hand anymore. It'll be in your mind. But he doesn't go there. He goes somewhere else.
Have you ever considered it? Has it ever popped into your head? Because you might be the only person that could get people off of the Apple platform.
Well, I can tell you where I think things are going to go, which is that we're not going to have a phone or in the traditional sense. What we call a phone will really be an edge node for AI inference, for AI video inference, with some radios to obviously connect to. But essentially you'll have AI on the server side communicating to an AI on your device, formerly known as a phone, and generating real-time video of anything that you could possibly want.
So there's a couple key things there. You have some AI cloud somewhere. Maybe it's your AI data center. Maybe it's Colossus. Maybe it's Cortex, whatever it is. There's some, AI. Maybe it's ChatGPT's AI. I don't think he's specifically really referring to his own companies. Maybe it's ChatGPT's data centers. Maybe it's Gemini's data centers. And there will be massive AI compute on the server side. And then in your hand, you will have a device that has AI compute power in it, and probably a lot of compute power. I think he's speculating that these devices, he said we're not going to make a phone. He didn't say we're not going to make one of these edge computing devices. Right? And what's the use for the AI5, AI6, AI7, AI8? Maybe one of the use cases is you're going to be putting an AI6 chip in a device that will be your edge compute to connect to the AI. So, and it'll generate whatever video. Now, listen to a little bit more of what he says about this.
And I think that there won't be operating systems. There won't be apps in the future. There won't be operating systems or apps.
There won't be operating systems or apps. Now, he bought a company, X, that thrives at being an app. Your Tesla car has an app. Starlink is an app. And he's saying apps are going to go away. I think Elon may be going too far here, but Elon's smarter than me. Elon has a better vision of the future than I have.
It'll just be, you've got a device that is there for the screen and audio and for and to put as much AI on the device as possible, so as to minimize the amount of bandwidth that's needed between your edge node device, formerly known as a phone, and the.
So there's an important detail there. as much AI compute on the device as possible so you don't need to use the cloud to do your AI compute, so that the device on the phone has enough compute to be able to deliver what you need without having to go to the cloud, so you don't need as much bandwidth.
Servers.
So if there's no apps, what will people use? Like, will X still exist? Will there be email platforms, or will you get everything through AI?
That's I thought Joe sometimes doesn't ask great questions. This was a spectacular question. And the answer is kind of like,
you'll get everything through AI.
Everything through AI. What will be the benefit of that, as opposed to having individual apps?
Whatever you can think of, or really whatever the AI can anticipate you might want, it'll show you.
whatever you can think of, or whatever the AI thinks you might want. I like I said, I think he's going too far, but I'm not sure he's going too far. There is no.
That's my prediction for where things end up.
What kind of time frame are we talking about here?
I don't know. It's probably 5 or 6 years, something like that.
So Grok 69420 says, no OS and apps. How do we chat or browse? I think the idea is that you let the AI know you want to chat with your friend or you want to say something to somebody, and the AI communicates with your friend through your friend's AI. So the communication goes through the AI, and the AI, you may like start to say what you want to say, and the AI finishes your sentence correctly because it knows what you want to say before you finish saying it. A really quick, Jay Rockerstein, how's the family doing? Any new humans on the way? No humans on the way yet, sort of. That's a complicated question to answer at this point. We are, I think, making progress towards having children. Hopefully we will have a child by the end of next year. That's the best I can give you. And everybody's healthy.
So 5 or 6 years, apps are like Blockbuster Video.
Pretty much.
And everything's run through AI.
Yeah. And there'll be...
And just a quick point here. I've seen other people suggest that AI will become the OS and you'll have apps running on the AI OS. And Elon is basically saying, no, the AI is just going to do everything. The AI isn't really an OS. The AI is just everything. And like, what does that mean? I mean, I think he has a far better vision of this concept than I do.
Like, most of what people consume in 5 or 6 years, maybe sooner than that, will be just AI-generated content.
So he's talking about 5 or 6 years from now, and then he says most of what people consume. That seems to leave room for DMs. By the way, even the concept of phone, like, how often do you make a phone call on your phone? I joke with my daughters that we should do a what do you call it? An ad to let people know that there's this feature on your phone called Phone. There's an app on your phone called Phone, and you can talk to people. And they're like, can I talk to 2 people at once? No. Can I see them? No. It's just a phone call. Like, why would they use that? But like, I don't know how many people actually use the phone feature on their phone anymore. I almost never. I don't think I use the phone feature on my iPhone hardly at all, and I use it on my Android phone in Thailand for when somebody's delivering a package to my house. I think we used it to make a reservation tonight for dinner, but very rarely do we make phone calls anymore on our phones. So why do we call them phones? They're edge computing devices already, and Elon's just saying the edge computing device is going to be very AI focused in the future.
So, music, videos, there's already, there's people have made AI videos using Grok Imagine and with using, other apps as well, that are several minutes long, or like 10, 15 minutes, and it's pretty coherent.
So, I don't know to what extent, like, how much do we consume video content? How much do we consume other content? What content do we want to consume? Will AI be delivering the kind of content? Like, I watch, I'm scrolling through X to see what people are posting. How does AI replicate that? Like I said, Elon has a vision of it far better than I do. David Rucker says maybe an AI 6 chip for the device. Well, yeah, I think he's talking about 5 or 6 years from now, so it's probably like an AI 7, AI 8 chip. engineered to use less battery while delivering high performance. Yeah, so all right, let's move on. Just really quick on investing. This account, oh come on, says the biggest cohort of idiots that have ever walked the earth are Tesla bulls that insist LiDAR isn't additive. You can't find a bigger set of dumber people in history except maybe the Children's Crusade. I don't know what the Children's Crusade is. Bonus, they think they're tech gurus. So, first of all, if I'm an idiot, I bought my stock in February of 2016. I've got a 45x when I first started buying Tesla stock. So I'm happy in my stupidity. I'm a little bit, maybe I'm like Forrest Gump and I've Forrest Gump my way to a successful, happy life. But, here's the thing. One of the things that really hit me recently was, Elon will say, well, you don't drive with lasers coming out of your eyes. You can just drive with vision. If LiDAR is so good, why isn't it an option for cars, for human driven cars, so that we would have some sort of readout on the screen, like a heads up display showing us what the LiDAR sees? If LiDAR is additive, if LiDAR adds value to our vision only driving, if it's additive and adds value to the vision only driving of the car, why isn't it a feature that's offered to humans? I don't know the answer to this question other than that maybe it doesn't really add value. And yeah, I've started investing at $10 a share, split adjusted. I've only gotten more bullish over time. But sure, call me an idiot on my 45x. Okay. Do I think OpenAI survives 2030 with their burn rate? It's really hard to say. I watched, we'll talk about OpenAI for a second. I watched a clip of Sam Altman being questioned about that by, I forget who. He was on an interview with Sundar Pichai, I think from Google. And, the question was something like, you have $13 billion in revenue. How are you going to raise $1.4 trillion to build all these data centers? And he said, we have more revenue than that. And Sundar said, I've seen the business plans. It's all going to work. I don't know where the money comes from to build $1.4 trillion in data centers. I don't see how that's working. I have not seen what Barry Glack is saying, so I don't know the answer to that. Tubular. 16.42 split adjusted. Sure. Okay. So another quick clip. This is different. This is more Elon political, but not too long.
What other organizations? What other departments?
Well, I mean, I'm a small government guy, so when the country was created, we just had the Department of State, Department of War, and sort of the Department of Justice. We had an Attorney General and Treasury Department. I don't know why you need more than that.
So the federal government has something like 450 agencies. And Elon's saying we need 3 or 4. And I agree with him 100%. I don't know why the federal government is this big. I think the vast majority of the federal government not only fails to add value to the American people, but actually takes value away from the American people, that the American economy would be thriving far beyond what we see today if we had a much smaller government, with eliminating most government agencies. They talked about the Department of Education before, that the Department of Education was created, I think, under Jimmy Carter, and education results have gotten worse ever since. So it didn't work. So why do we keep doing it? There's a lot in the Joe Rogan interview where he talks about a lot of the corruption, including on the Republican side, the fraud, whatever, waste and abuse, not just Democrats, but Republicans, and why it's so hard to fix what's going on in government. But Elon's vision of ideal government is pretty, I don't want it as big as he said. I don't know why we need a Department of War. If we do need a Department of War, it could be much smaller because it should just be defending our borders and not all over the world. Maybe he agrees with that too. I don't know. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about SpaceX now. So this is Eric Berger, who is a space journalist. He has a great book called Liftoff, which describes the early days of SpaceX. I believe he's working on a second book. The early days of SpaceX leads up to the first Falcon 9 launch, I think, but not landing. I think the second book goes into more history. I don't think it's available yet. A lot of debate about the viability of data centers in space. There are a lot of hurdles, but they do seem more plausible if autonomous construction is a thing. I think there was an NVIDIA post, or somebody posted about NVIDIA and doing data centers in space. And Elon responded to Eric saying simply scaling up Starlink V3 satellites, which have high speed laser links, would work. SpaceX will be doing this. First time anybody's heard this. And Elon said SpaceX will, let me be clear, first time anybody heard Elon say it directly, we are going to do this. Scaling up these Starlink V3 satellites, which are the satellites that haven't been launched yet but will be launched on Starship, which have high-speed laser links, which would work. And what exactly does this mean? There's been a lot of talk about what this means. This was from September. I think SpaceX filed a patent for a groundbreaking system for providing cloud computing services through dynamically clustered satellite constellations. The system transforms satellites from mere communication relays into distributed edge computing nodes. I'm not sure that this is what Elon was referring to, but this is a patent of something that they're working on. And there's a lot more detail. Look for SETI Park on X to read this post in more detail. So my response, and I got a lot more coming than just my response. And I'm just a knucklehead, but here's my sense. SpaceX manufactures Starlink satellites at scale. Which means lower cost and greater reliability. They make them in high volume. Nobody else really makes satellites in volume. There's pretty much every satellite they make is a one-off, right? Maybe there's some replication and there's 4 satellites that are similar to each other, but SpaceX is making like thousands of them. They made 2,500 satellites this year, maybe more than that. They launched 2,500 satellites this year. So they've got this manufacturing process down. So the question is, and I've said this in the past, could SpaceX use Starlink as a platform for other uses in space? My original thought was astronomy, that you put optical hardware or some other kind of astronomy hardware on the device and you send them out maybe in orbit around the sun and you get very long baseline interferometry. There would be challenges with making that work. You could just do it around the Earth for starters. There's other ways of doing that, but using Starlink as a platform for astronomy, that's not what they're talking about here. And I thought there were other potential uses. I personally did not foresee AI data centers in space. I don't claim to have seen that coming. But they're now something that's now being talked about. It looks like it's likely to happen. Smaller AI data centers networked via laser could make a lot of sense. I don't understand how, because there's a lot of latency. The AI, Colossus, the AI data centers that they have on Earth, the chips are all packed really close together. They communicate very quickly with each other. And that allows a training compute in particular works really well. So is this inference compute? Are they going to do training compute in space? Not clear. Does Elon mean SpaceX plan to build its own AI data center or centers in orbit? So I don't know the end, but there's a lot more commentary here. Let's see what we've got in the chat first. When do you think SpaceX will start launching Starlink to the moon to set up moon-wide communication? See, the moon orbits are not simple. Because of Earth's gravity pull, moon orbits are eccentric. I don't think there's a need for Starlink on the moon, at least not yet. I think the moon can have direct communication with Earth. I think the moon base, if I understand it correctly, the moon base will basically face Earth all or most of the time. You'll just have direct laser links to Earth without, there's some lag, but I don't think having Starlinks orbiting the moon would help a moon base. Understanding what Elon is thinking requires to be as crazy as Elon. True. Can't wait for Starlink IPO for us to invest in space clusters. Yeah, this radically changes my valuation of SpaceX, by the way. I don't know how to value Mars. I have a really good sense of how to value Starlink itself. But would this Starlink IPO include the SpaceX data centers, or would the SpaceX data centers be separate from Starlink IPO? I don't know I don't think that's a part of Starlink. That might be a separate IPO later. Who will run universal high income? We're going to talk about that later. Excellent channel that covers new Samsung 2nm fab challenges and all the other new fabs is Anastasian Tech. Thank you. First, somebody launched an AI data center in space yesterday. So the challenge with AI data centers is, can you get enough electricity generated from solar panels to power your AI data center? And can you radiate the heat into space? Thermal management, getting, the ships get hot. And on Earth, you can radiate the heat away because you have air around it, but in a vacuum, it's harder to get rid of the heat. It's not impossible, it's just harder. So that's an interesting challenge. Both Moon and Mars need GPS and high bandwidth communications. Mars communication is completely different from the Moon, but yes, I don't think Moon needs GPS. I think they're just going to be in one spot. I don't think there's a plan to do a lot around the Moon. It's going to be like, I mean, maybe long term there will be, but I don't think Moon navigation is going to be that hard. Jim Whitehead says Elon seems to be driven to do stuff like Joan of Arc did it, regardless of personal risk or happiness. Yeah, I think Elon, a lot of people become very wealthy and then they just buy a yacht and get hookers and coke and have fun. And Elon just likes doing. I think Elon is dissatisfied unless he's getting things done. Are the satellite-based data centers Skynet? I don't think so. Earth Moon needs optical tight beam communications. What about that alien ship checking out our planets? Can we intercept it with anything if we have? They did talk about the 3i, something like that. 3i, whatever. They did talk about that, and Elon doesn't think it's alien. There's apparently has a high nickel content. Elon said you wouldn't build a spaceship out of nickel. I don't think we can intercept it. I don't think we have enough advance notice to be able to intercept it. Rolls-Royce is planning nuclear power for the moon. I think there's multiple plans for nuclear power for the moon, but solar on the moon is going to be much more sensible. Will 1,500 robotaxis by the end of the year move the stock in any way? What's the threshold? I don't think the robotaxis are going to move the stock much. It's hard to know what's going to move the stock. What really would move the stock is when it starts showing up in the financials, which is Q3 next year, Q4 next year. Could they get us a detailed map of the dark side? I think there already is a detailed map of the dark side, but I don't know about that. Their space cluster might look like decentralized compute from AI chips and 100 million idle car fleet. I think that it is connected to the idea of having AI chips in cars in an idle fleet. I just to be clear, I don't think Tesla is going to put AI 6, AI 7, or AI 8 in cars. I think AI 5 is the last chip that goes in cars. That AI 5 will do driving well enough that it won't make sense to bother putting AI 6 in. Elon isn't even sure they need AI 5 in the cars. But having your AI inference hardware in the cars in some form makes sense if you get decentralized compute and they already have batteries and they already have electricities and they already have cooling built in. So, and you get some ridiculous amount of compute. If you have 100 million cars with 1 kilowatt of compute each, you get 100 gigawatt compute, which is 100 times the size, more than 100 times the size of any AI data center today. So anyway, Ryan says each Starlink V3 appears to have 100 watts of solar based on dimensions. Starship carried 50 to 100 per flight. Call it 6 megawatts nameplate per launch at 60 satellites. His Starship hits even conservative projected launch rates. They'd be able to launch a nuclear reactor worth of power capacity per year by the end of the decade, unprecedented scale. Elon says Starship could deliver 100 gigawatts per year to high Earth orbit within 4 to 5 years. So they're not going to be in low Earth orbit, right? Because they don't need to be doing internet communications to humans so that your video stream or your video gaming is fast. That's not the purpose of these. Deliver 100 gigawatts per year to high Earth orbit. I don't think he means geosynchronous orbit. I think he just means, higher orbit than low Earth orbit. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure what he means by that. Within 4 to 5 years, if we can solve the other parts of the equation, 100 terawatts a year is possible from a lunar base producing solar-powered AI satellites locally and accelerating them to escape velocity with a mass driver. So that's really so. So Latif says Elon casually describing sci-fi as next quarter goals. Now that's not next quarter goals, but it is interesting. I don't know the answer to this question. Are there sufficient resources on the moon to manufacture solar-powered AI satellites from moon resources? I don't think so. Is there silicon on the moon? Is there, maybe you're assembling them based on material that's delivered to the moon? Very interesting question there. I don't know what he means by on Mars. I think there's more resources. I don't know how much resources there are on the moon to be able to do that. And then a mass driver on the moon, which means you're not launching rockets from the moon to put them in. You have a device on the moon that accelerates them to escape velocity without having to use a rocket. That's some batshit crazy stuff by Elon there. That was like an insight into Elon's holy shit crazy mind. Amazing and not crazy. I mean, honestly, all of it makes sense to me. Um, Now, APO structure something says SpaceX will be clustering scaled up V3 Starlinks together using laser links to form a decentralized space data center. That'll be much easier than physically assembling data centers in space, and they already have the tech. This is huge. Elon says yes. Now, I want to be clear here. What I see, and I may be wrong, and Farzad probably disagrees with me, Lord Farquaad, is the existing Starlinks have a lot of hardware on them for communicating with the Earth so that they can handle 1,000 or more users at a moment, communicating, doing internet access. I think if they're going to be putting AI hardware on Starlink platform, they won't have the same degree of communications hardware so they can make room. And then I also think they probably can deploy more solar on the Starlink platform to generate more electrical energy, more energy. Right. And if they're in higher Earth orbit, the astronomers don't complain as much because in low Earth orbit, they might obstruct astronomy more. But in higher Earth orbit, they may obstruct astronomy less. Mass drivers in the moon are very efficient. Did the calculation over 15 years ago. Electricity transfers for lasers in space as vacuum on the moon's surface has minimal losses, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. So then APO structure, other post data centers and cloud computer, a $1 trillion market that is growing extremely rapidly. The largest bottleneck to scaling up are permitting and energy use. There's no permitting in space, and there's also unlimited and constant solar energy. So a space-based data center could make a lot of sense. One of the biggest challenges to space-based data centers would be assembly. SpaceX can solve that by, I believe Elon responded positively to this, by the way. One of the biggest challenges to space-based data centers would be assembly. SpaceX can solve that by networking Starlink satellites using lasers, something they're already doing. So instead of building one big data center, they will network thousands of satellites into a decentralized one. SpaceX has already also shown that they have the ability to rapidly scale up satellite production and to launch them for cheap. So they're essentially extremely well positioned to become not just a leader in space-based compute, but in compute overall. This alone has the potential to be a $100 billion a year business. Bigger. Now combine that with regular Starlink and with direct to sell, and SpaceX might become one of the most profitable companies ever. And then he closes with Mars is happening. Because the money that's generated by SpaceX's successful businesses fund the Mars missions, not depending on on national governments to fund the Mars missions. Do I think drivers will be removed by December? Yeah, well, Elon said that safety monitors will be removed from the cars by December. Is he over optimistic? He usually is. If it's January 3rd, do I care? If it's February, do I care? I don't care. He said if you follow Elon long enough, when he says by the end of December, could it be February? Do you care? If you're a long-term investor, who cares? Casey Hammer, another account I follow a lot on X. Note that SpaceX can easily slap an H100, that's an NVIDIA chip, or 10 onto a Starlink satellite, already set up host payloads. I don't think the Starlink satellite generates enough electricity to power 10 H100s. I think this is why the AI-5 and then in the future AI-6, AI-7, and AI-8s are going to be important, is because they're going to deliver more compute on less energy. They're going to be more energy efficient compute. And H100 is intended to be a general purpose compute. And I think Elon likes the idea of having more specialized chips for more specialized compute. So if for inference compute, Tesla's chips may be better. So I think the real plan is not to use H100s, but to use AI-5s, AI-6s, and so on. Whether this is useful, I'm not sure. The satellite can run inference, but handing off for ground-based customers is very painful compared to simply running a bent pipe to a nearby ground-based data center, which will have durable cost advantage at the cost of about 1 millisecond of additional latency. I think the latency is more than that. For co-orbiting inference demand, or even on the same satellite, who knows? NASA used to put a lot of brain sweat into an orbit signal processing because the satellites were always constrained by data link budget, but Starlink can stream at more than 1 terabit per second, which is enough to sample nearly the entire radio spectrum at broad baseband and process it asynchronously on the ground. I'll be interested to see which corner cases this works for. And Elon responds, and this is another one of those Elon's going science fiction on us. Think in terms of Kardashev 2 and the path becomes obvious. So, and there was a conversation, I don't think I screenshotted this. So Kardashev 1 is using all the energy that comes to Earth. that this physicist Kardashev in the 1960s had this idea that um, you measure a civilization by how much of energy it uses, and there's all this energy on Earth. You use all the energy that's available on Earth, and then there's the energy of your sun. The problem with all the energy on Earth is if you used all the energy on Earth, you'd probably overheat the Earth because you wouldn't be able to use it efficiently. So Elon is just sort of skipping ahead to let's do Kardashev 2, which is surround the sun with solar and power your AI data centers and build like massive AI data centers and massive artificial superintelligence. Um, Tesla shifted AI5 and AI6 to one supplier, Mark says. No, I think Elon has said that both AI5 and maybe AI6 will both rely on TSMC and Samsung, not to one supplier. Get your ass to Mars. Isn't that from a movie, Mark? Any word on Jeff Bezos' progress in space? I believe that Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket is due to launch in the next month or two and try to land the booster on a ship, a moving ship. Bears have to pay money to borrow Tesla shares to sell them short. Investors that don't use margin can be patient. I want to be a safety driver, boss. I think go to Tesla Careers, and I think you can apply for jobs like that. Delta V to Mars is only slightly higher than the moon, so no advantage in no, you're not going to launch from the moon to Mars. You're going to launch from low Earth orbit to or Earth orbit to Mars. You don't use the moon for that purpose. Okay. So Kardashev, Elon's going Kardashev. Now here's some more clips.
Like the socialists and the Marxists are in opposition to a lot of your ideas. But if this gets implemented and you really can achieve universal high income, that's the greatest socialist solution of all time. Like,
So this is where I think Joe Rogan misses something. I don't know if he realizes what he misses here, but socialists don't care about the welfare of people. Socialists and Marxists pretend to care about the welfare of people. Socialists and Marxists, the people who are close to power, care about power. So the idea that, universal high income is the socialist paradise is not true. And by the way, I watch a lot of content at 1.5x speed or 2x speed. I watched a lot of this at 2x speed. And because Elon pauses a lot, there's a lot of pauses, whatever. And once you start listening to stuff at 1.5x and 2x speed, they sound drunk when they're speaking at 1x speed.
like the socialists and the Marxists are in opposition to a lot of your ideas. But if this gets implemented and you really can achieve universal high income, that's the greatest socialist solution of all time. Like literally no one will have to work.
But that misses that that's not what socialists and Marxists really want. The people who control the future of socialism and Marxism don't want a future where everybody is happy and everyone's satisfied. They want a future where they have power and control over people. And then they have everything that they want because they're in charge. And they don't realize, the people who have these ideas don't realize when you get to your socialist paradise, 90% of you guys are going to get knocked off. And they're not going to hire the highly educated people for the job of, for the power jobs. They're going to hire morons that they can control. They're going to murder the university, the educated people. These guys do you follow socialist history at all? All right, a couple more clips here. Artificial general intelligence from Elon.
What do you think the solution is to the jobs that are going to be lost because of AI and robotics? The jobs due to automation, the jobs due to no longer do we need human beings to do these jobs because AI is doing them. Do you think it's going to be some sort of a universal basic income thing? Do you think there's going to be some other kind of solution that happens?
So I just want to be clear here that my personal opinion, and you guys don't have to care about my personal opinion, is humans have always adapted. You have new technology comes out, humans adapt, humans find ways of being productive. Technology has destroyed countless jobs over the last 100+ years, and humans adapt and humans find ways to use the technology to become more productive. And I don't see that changing. Will there be people who can't keep up? Yes. But I think some of us have a drive to be productive, and we will find ways of being productive. Hi, Rich. So I think that's the premise that it's going to destroy jobs and people won't have anything to do. I don't agree that that's necessarily the path, but listen to how Elon responds.
Has to be implemented. Because a lot of people are going to be out of work, right?
I think there will be actually a high demand for jobs, but not necessarily the same jobs.
So just a key point here. We eliminated the guys who put horseshoes on horses, blacksmiths, right? ATMs came about when artificial automated teller machines came about, and you could get cash from a machine on the wall instead of from a teller. People said, "Oh, this is going to destroy teller jobs." Teller jobs doubled. Now, the advent of the internet and some other things may be reducing teller jobs, but ATMs made banks so much more efficient. They opened more branches, and they gave the tellers more high value work to do. Um, if you go back to all this technology that's come out, look, I'm making money as a content creator. That job didn't exist 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know. Social media marketing, search engine optimization, search engine marketing. There's all these things that come about, and people find ways to add value to the technology that's created. And I don't think there's any. Maybe you become a bot herder. I don't. And we never able to predict the jobs in advance. Nobody predicted social media marketing and social media search engine optimization, nobody predicted those jobs when, Yahoo and Alta Vista had search engines. I don't think anybody predicted those jobs. I think it took a while before people realized those became industries, right? Social media marketing is huge. So, I think the idea that we can predict what jobs will be created by this, but I think we can predict, we can be wrong, but we can predict that humans will find ways to be productive and become more productive using the technology that's created, and to become more successful and get higher income, move from lower income jobs that are less productive to higher income jobs that are more productive. But not how Elon answers the question completely. Elon, you'll hear.
So, this process has been happening throughout modern history. There used to be like doing calculations manually with like a pencil and paper. It used to be a job.
There's like halls filled with people who are crunching numbers.
So they used to have like buildings full of people, cold computers, where the banks would all you do all day is you do calculations because they didn't have computers. They didn't have digital computers that people
Abacus.
do. Yeah, well, it was just people would just like add and subtract stuff on a piece of paper, and that would be how banks would do financial processing.
And you'd have
You think about how radical of a change we've had in that business, right? That everything's on computer and it's all computer. It's all computer.
to literally go over their equations to make sure the books are balanced.
Yeah, and most times it's just simple math. Like in a world before computers, how did you calculate? How did you do transactions? You had to do them by hand.
I remember seeing, I don't know, it was some documentary about the history of computers, and they came out with the first spreadsheet, not Lotus, before Lotus. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. And they showed it to an accountant, and he cried. The name's escaping me right now, but they showed it to an accountant, and he cried. Marriage Partner Ministry says, "Why am I blocked? Blocked from what? I don't know what you're referring to."
So then when computers were introduced, the job of doing, bank calculations no longer existed. So people had to go do something else. And that's what's going to happen. That's what is happening at an accelerated rate due to AI and then robotics.
That's the issue.
So we saw it, over many decades that jobs are eliminated and jobs are created. And I think people think that jobs won't be created quickly enough. They always were.
Though, right? The accelerated rate, because it's going to be...
It's the accelerator. It's just happening. Like I said, like AI is the supersonic tsunami.
Supersonic tsunami. Elon loves this term. That AI is coming. It's coming fast, and it's going to wipe out a lot. Elon's smarter than me. I'm not sure I agree with him about the supersonic tsunami. I think that it may be a wave of creation rather than a wave of destruction. I actually think about technology ways like Google came along, and then all of a sudden there was this wave of Google, and then all these companies were created that surfed the wave of Google with search engine optimization, etc. the personal computer was created, and then Excel, Microsoft DOS, then Excel, and then word processing, and all these things were riding the wave of this new technology. Social, Facebook comes along. There's all these people, social media marketing businesses riding this wave of technology. So the wave of AI technology, there's a lot of opportunities for people to create businesses that ride that wave. Maybe there's a artificial intelligence optimization. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
So that's what I call it, supersonic tsunami. So
It's like, what other jobs will be available that aren't available now because of AI?
See, that's the question. Like, you can't predict the jobs of the future. I don't know that anyone has ever successfully predicted the jobs that are created by new technology. What we can predict is that new technology creates new jobs that pay better and are more productive.
well, AI is really still digital. Ultimately, AI can improve the productivity of humans who build things with their hands or do things with their hands, like literally welding, electrical work, plumbing, anything that's physically moving atoms.
Not just my pitch to my daughter, who's in performing arts, that live stage performance, live athletic performance. People don't want to watch robots do that stuff. When you want to go to a live show, you want to watch humans do it. When you want to watch a sporting event, nobody watches robot competitions. We still watch human competitions. We still watch people play chess, even though we know the machines are better.
Like cooking food or farming or like anything that's physical. Those jobs will exist for a much longer time. But anything that is digital, which is like just someone at a computer doing something, AI is going to take over those jobs like lightning.
So if you are in a job that is, if you're in the laptop class, Elon thinks your job is wiped out. Now, I think if you're in sales, and I think a lot of business is still going to be person to person, you have a laptop class job, but there's a lot of selling going on. There's a lot of interpersonal interaction. I think those jobs actually do survive. And maybe they thrive because now you're able to use this technology to be more effective.
Coding, anything along those lines. Yeah.
It's going to take over those jobs like lightning. Just like digital computers took over the job of people doing manual calculations.
And robots will eventually come along and start doing the physical work, but he's saying that's going to take longer. I think he talked about that on a clip I didn't include. It is safer to be financially secure to brace the impact of AI waves. If we have sustainable abundance, maybe our money means nothing. I almost wonder, like, buying land is going to be the thing you can't replace. It's good to not having to do jobs. The problem is you need to be able to enjoy the fruits of all the robot AI makes. So you either need a universal high income or a moneyless economy. I'm going to do the next clip is Elon talking about universal high income, by the way. If AI is much smarter than us in every way, we will go like the horse. He talked about that. I don't remember if that was with Rogan or not, that, we didn't destroy all the chimps. We protect the chimps. Can the AI like keep us in a garden and keep us safe? Will it take us with it for a ride into space? We'll see. Ice Wendigo says there will not be enough dancing sports to give billions of people income, UHI, or moneyless economy. We don't know what jobs might be created by this new wave of technology. Assuming that that new technology won't create new jobs is going in the face of all of human history, all of the history of technology. Distant Sight says AI is different because the knowledge of the humans is transferred permanently and not involving humans. I don't know what that means. Most of us have desk jobs. We are screwed. Again, is your job purely a desk job where you're just pushing data, or are you interacting with people in a way that's meaningful? Okay. So we're going to skip ahead to the last clip about universal high income.
Cars are going to be autonomous. But there's just so many desk jobs where really what people are doing is they're processing email, or they're answering the phone, and just anything that isn't moving atoms, like anything that is not physically, like doing physical work, that will obviously be the first thing. Those jobs will be and are being eliminated by AI at a very rapid pace.
So Grok 609420 says in the recent book Stellar by Tony Sebet was mentioned prime land and arts will be valuable. Yeah, I mean, I think if you can buy real estate on the beach, if you can buy real estate with mountain views, if you buy land that's buildable, um, that's useful, people are still going to go to restaurants, right? I don't think, we're not all going to have Optimus as a personal chef in our home preparing off. Or if we're going to want to go out, we're going to want to go to places. I think destinations like Disney World are going to thrive. Universal Studios, as long as they avoid the woke behavior that scares people away. Um, beaches, beach resorts. I think a lot of things will thrive in the future. And then if you own that, and I think Elon, maybe it's because Elon's self-identified as autistic. Maybe he doesn't see the value of human-to-human communication increasing in value. Maybe a cousin who is an actuary wonders where the current junior members of his staff will go as AI moves in eventually to near his level. Yeah. I think that actuaries are potentially on the way out. We'll see. But I think that there's the ability to, like, we don't yet see AI doing the level of thinking that true high-ranking actuaries do. There's a level of thinking that's higher up that AI may reach that level, but we haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not. Sometimes I see it, but I don't know.
And ultimately, working will be optional because you'll have robots plus AI, and we'll have, in a benign scenario,
A benign scenario. That's important.
high income, not just universal basic income, universal high income, meaning anyone can have any products or services that they want.
So this connects to Tesla's new mission. Tesla has changed its mission from sustainable energy to sustainable abundance. If you deliver sustainable abundance, as in anybody who wants anything can get it, I don't think you can deliver abundant land. There is abundant land, but abundant land that people want to be on. I think that's going to be a challenge. But in general, you want an ice cream, the bot brings you an ice cream. You want to play a video game, you get all the video games you want. Whatever it is that you want to go to an amusement, that's another thing. Like you want to go to Disney World. Well, is there enough space for everyone? Are they going to build many amusement parks so that there's endlessly large amusement parks? What is it that people want to do? Will AI deliver all of that to all of us? In the benign scenario, yes, I would say, even on Elon's goal of having maximally truth-seeking AI, building resources for humans takes away resources from maximally seeking truth. So I'm not sure he's correct about that.
So
but there will be a lot of trauma and disruption along the way.
So Elon sees a lot of trauma and disruption along the way. A lot of people losing jobs. You lose your job, start looking for another job. If I'm correct, and I could be wrong, we're going to see a lot of job creation. There's a lot of jobs available right now. Train yourself to do important things.
So you anticipate a basic income from that the economy will boost to such an extent that a high income would be available to almost everybody. So we'd essentially eliminate poverty.
In the benign scenario, yes.
So what's the non-benign scenario? There's a lot of non-benign scenarios where the AIs are woke or they're evil or they decide to discard humans or leave us behind. The biggest danger of a universal high income society is idle time and teaching people how to use it productively. Yeah, they talk a lot. They talk a lot more. I would encourage you to watch the Rogan Elon interview at 1.5x speed. That does it wipe out crime because you have no financial needs anymore. Well, I don't think it wipes out domestic violence. Some people are criminals by nature and they're going to continue committing crimes. And if you don't punish them, like some cities don't punish them, then they're going to continue committing crimes. People buy dirt cheap housing in neglected old towns and live there again. People want to live where in desirable places. That as we've had better and better communications, Jim. I appreciate the thought, Jim, but as we've had better and better communications over time, the towns are getting evacuated faster and faster. The Japanese small towns are dying. The people without a job will not be able to go to restaurants, will not afford a house, unless the production is distributed for free or a universal high income is provided. Yeah, so Elon is saying that will happen. I'm not convinced he's correct. I'm not convinced he's wrong. I don't know. I worry that that's a bad path. Like I said, I think it's more likely that humans will find ways of being productive. Human thinking habituates toward negativity. It made us fearful, cautious, but with no work obligations to occupy our minds. Lots of people have severe neurosis. They talked about that. There's lots of people who become successful and they retire from active work, and then they play tennis, they play golf, they find things to do, and they're happy. Like I retired at 45 and played golf 3 times a week, and all of a sudden I was playing golf twice a week. Then I was playing golf once a week. Then I was playing golf once a month because I was finding things to do that were productive. Because as much as I like golf, apparently I don't like it that much. The whole idea of sending 1,000 starships to Mars per window is to provide massive redundancy. I think there's a conversation going on in the chat between Jim Manley and Jim Whitehead that's about Mars and the moon and all that stuff. Tesla price rising is my universal basic income. Yeah. Survival occupies the mind more so than pleasantry, pace, or beauty of hobbies do. I think there's a lot of people. Look, I lived in Boca Raton, Florida. There's a lot of retirement communities where people play cards and they go swimming and they go to the gym and they go to the beach and they go to restaurants and they're pretty happy. Not everyone wants city living, but it seems like a lot of people do. I mean, I'm in Thailand and most people in Thailand want to be in Bangkok. Most people in Japan want to be in Tokyo. Not most, but it's a magnet. People want to be in the city where things are happening. Better chance of finding a mate there, better chance of finding a good job there. I'm in Bangkok right now. I live in a smaller town called Krabi normally, and the restaurant options in Bangkok are much, much better. Somewhat more expensive sometimes, but there's really good restaurant options in Bangkok. And shopping, better shopping. Better life than being a corporate wage slave. Yeah, I mean, how many people are going to miss having a shitty job with a shitty that's meaningless? Increased communications increases the need to be near relatives and friends to keep in touch in person. I personally think like the in-person contact is better. Most of with my wife and with my wife's family, I don't have a lot of in-person communication with other people, but I enjoy it. Small towns are giving away homes to young people. Yep. If everything is free. By the way, that's the last clip. That was the last clip I had for you. Everything is free. People will travel, do golf, tai chi, play games, sail, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think people want to do things. Marriage Partners Ministry says Tesla $448 a share by year end. There's people making all kinds of predictions all over the map of what Tesla stock is going to be by the year end. Look, we're at, I don't know, something like, what is the current share price? I should know the answer to this question. 430? 456. Huh. Okay, so the stock is at $456 a share. That's pretty good. I hear people saying $500 a share, $600 a share, $1,000 a share. I think the stock could fall to 250. The stock could go up to 750. I don't know. I think that it's right now it's $456 a share. It's probably going to be close to $456 a share at the end of the year. Does it break 500? Maybe. And for me, I think for those who don't know, I've actually been thinking, and tell me if you think this is a good idea. I have an option strategy, and which is basically I just buy long out of the money options, figuring that I think the stock is going to go up. And when the stock goes up, 10%, my options go up like 30%, 20 or 30%. So, and I have my options in my Roth IRA, which means they grow tax-free. You want your highest growth in your Roth IRA. This is for Americans, by the way. It's a tax-free retirement account. So I've been thinking about making videos for YouTube channel members, ex-subscribers, followers on, paid supporters on Patreon and on the Daily Lie, where I would talk about my option strategy in more depth. If you think that's a good idea, if you think that is something that would make you want to be a channel member or want to be a subscriber or supporter, let me know if you'd like that idea. I think it's a small audience that's interested in options, and I don't recommend it for most people. And like for me, it's like my target was 5 to 10% of my portfolio. It's gone well, so it's more than 10% of my portfolio now. And then there's that challenge. Well, what about when it goes beyond 10% of your portfolio to keep it? Because it's higher risk, right? If something goes wrong, you lose more. So that's something I'm thinking about doing as additional content. And I will be back in sort of normal life in a few days. And so I will get back to probably making 2 or 3 live streams a week, including the regular Sunday live stream like I'm doing right now. A third of all people suffer from some sort of chronic depression or more serious mental illnesses. Is Pink Floyd saying we've got to keep the Lunars on the path? Sure. Options risk being hit by black swans, but good to learn how it works. Too much work, Warren. 4 times 69 is 276. I don't know how useful that is to know, but okay. All right. So I've gone on way longer than I usually do. I want to thank everybody for watching. And so I thank in particular Jim, Mark Potocnik, Mark Plott for moderating the chat. Channel member Grok, 69420, and others. Be nice, regular visitor. I got an option this time in my bonus. What does that mean? Talk to your employer about that. News on my car project. No news right now. We are getting I'll tell you about this. We are opening a cafe and co-working space. One of the challenges of hiring somebody to help me build the pod car was having a space to work. We are now going to have a space to work. Fitness room is almost complete in the co-working space. I've been lifting weights a lot. I've been doing some cardio. My cardio fitness is spectacular. I just had a test. This is an interesting little side note. I just had a test called transcranial ultrasound, carotid ultrasound. That went well. So, but I'll tell you all that in the future. And that's just like, I wasn't sick or anything. It was just like looking at the future and focusing on my longevity. So thanks everybody so much I have not seen the Lexus pod car. Thanks everybody so much for watching. We will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.